This is our first episode of TED Talk Cruises, which I'm excited about this, coming off of a recent cruise. Lead us into this segment today.
Yeah, so my name is Ted Blank, and welcome to the TED Talks Cruises Ultimate Guide to the Danube River podcast. And so my name is Ted Blank, and for the last 15 years, I have been taking cruises all over the world. I've been on over 50 cruises, and I also own a travel agency called Ted Blank Luxury Travel and Adventure, and we'd love to help you plan your next cruise vacation. But in the next 15 minutes, Ken and I are going to take you on an adventure down the Danube River. And Ken, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah, so I am Ken Conan. I still consider myself a rookie traveler.
Travel rookie.
It's just, I've been on, 3-4 cruises now. So I feel like I'm getting a bit of my sea legs, but I'm nowhere near your expertise, my friend. But I'm excited to chat today. The Danube is actually the river that we cruised down most recently. And
I know.
I definitely have some perceptions coming into it, and then coming out of it, they're totally different.
Yeah. So our goal in this podcast is to kind of talk about destinations and talk about cruising and kind of the best things to see and do in the destinations, and maybe some of the best ways to cruise and do it. And so, Ken, you just came back from 2 weeks in Europe, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was. So full disclosure, my lovely bride of 25 years and I were celebrating our anniversary, and she works with you and your team, Ted. And so it was great. It was really fun. We had sandwiched in between a cruise, kind of a taster cruise. Taster. Yeah, it was just a 4 or 5 dayer. Uh-huh. And then we had a 4-day kind of she had a conference that she attended.
Yeah, big expo.
Huge one. It was super cool because they had all they had all the ships in. Yeah. And for me, a guy that but prior to that, I've seen one ship. It was an waterway ship. I was like, this is beautiful. It's super cool. But to see all of them, I think there's 15, 16 ships that were
It is amazing how much variety there is in the river cruising world. And I think folks oftentimes don't realize that they think maybe there's only one brand of cruise ship out there. And as you saw, they come in all shapes and sizes and flavors, and it's a very diverse industry, and that's really cool for travelers. And there's more coming to the table in the near future as well. So the industry is just going to keep on growing. Wow. And then after that, you took a full cruise all the way up the Danube to Budapest.
We did, and that was amazing. We jumped onto an Avalon ship,
Avalon
Waterways, yep. And it was, I really loved the room we had. I liked all the service and food we had, and then I loved Budapest. And I literally coming into this, Ted, I was thinking, Budapest.
That is actually,
We're doing this?
That is really true, and it's very interesting because the Rhine and the Danube are two very different river cruise experiences. And you've had the chance now to do both of them. Yeah. And there's so much scenic beauty on the Rhine. And you've also got France in there. You've got Holland in there. So you've got a pretty diverse cultural mix, where the Danube is pretty Germanic in flavor. You got Austria, and then you head into a little bit of Eastern Europe. But Budapest is just, in my mind, it's one of those hidden gem cities in Europe that nobody would fly across the Atlantic Ocean just to go to Budapest. But once you're there, there is just so much to see and do. And it's a beautiful city. It's nestled on a river valley, beautiful architecture. Did you get a chance to get off and explore the city a little bit?
So we did. And there's a couple highlights that I'll mention. But first, I have to mention, as we pulled in, it was at nighttime, and it was probably 9:30 or 10, and we had a lovely dinner, and we were upstairs with a cocktail, just enjoying the evening. And Shannon, my wife, had said to me, "This is on my bucket list," and I'm like, "Pull it in.
What's on your bucket
pull
list?
It into Budapest is on your bucket list."
I've been to Toledo before,
right? What? And so, and I know you've done this before, but you come through and there's these bridges that are lit up, and then I believe it's Parliament is off to your left if you come into town. I can't even do it justice. It is amazing. It is lit up just perfect.
Yep.
It's giving me goosebumps talking about it right now because it was amazing.
Yeah, it is. And that's, I think, the first highlight of Budapest is just the arrival there. Whether you come in the evening when everything's lit up, whether you come in the morning when you're seeing the city wake up, or whether you sail out of town and you get to see it leave behind. So yeah, that is absolutely, I think, probably one of the top 5 river cruise moments in Europe is arriving in or departing from Budapest on a ship.
It was amazing. And then we did have some time in town. Unfortunately, we weren't able to hit the baths, which I've heard are amazing.
The spa baths are quite incredible. Yes.
We did not hit that, but we did tour across the river, and I'm drawing a little bit of a blank, but you go up onto the hill, the fisherman's castle.
Fisherman's Overlook.
Yeah. Amazing. That was a very fun area to tour. And then we just had some time on our own as well. So we hit the market, which I know you recommended.
The food market.
The food market was amazing. So I'm a foodie. I don't know if you can tell.
We'll talk about food in a minute
but
here.
It was great. So not only did we find a ton of fun, like paprikas, there's a ton of dried meats there. I wish I had more time where I could have bought some because you can't take it back, right? So I would have loved to have sampled more of it.
You can actually bring dried meat back.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
I was under the impression that you couldn't.
If it's smoked, you can. Yeah.
Okay. And then we did a little, we're kind of explore the space on your own a little bit. So we walked across town and we went into the Jewish quarter, which was amazing. We were going to see the synagogue there. We did see the weeping willow tree that kind of commemorated some things, awful things that happened, right? Yeah. The Holocaust. That was very moving to see. And then kind of a curveball, we went to a, what do they call it? It's a ruined bar.
Yes, there are, and it's amazing because these are like World War II ruins that haven't been reconstructed.
That's right.
And the hipsters showed up and turned them into bars.
That's right.
And now the rich American tourists go to these hipster bars and restaurants in Budapest. But yeah, it's a neat. The old Jewish quarter is an interesting part of the city. I wouldn't say it's beautiful, but it's very interesting.
Very vibrant. A lot of restaurants, a lot of bars, a ton of restaurants. Like it wasn't just a couple. It was almost like, how do they keep this going?
And can you believe, this was behind the Iron Curtain?
No.
Well, I guess probably 40 years ago.
Yeah.
There's been so much transformation in Hungary. It's quite incredible. But you hit on something that I think really, to me, is one of the number one reasons why river cruising is such a great way to explore Europe.
Yeah.
Is you had those opportunities to do the guided tours and see some of the highlights, but then you always have plenty of time to do what you want to do or just kind of wander around as the mood strikes you, and then your ship is right there.
Yep.
You were probably never more than 25 minutes straight walk back to the ship.
For sure.
Right? I mean, it was all very convenient. And Budapest is a big city.
Huge.
It's a big city. It's got probably several million people in it. So what'd you think of Vienna? That's where you started out on the cruise, and that's where you had your, the conference was going on there as well.
Excellent. I was thinking about Vienna. For whatever reason in my head, I had smaller town envisioned, and it's a large city.
It is.
Yeah.
And it was like the center of the world.
Right.
Even just 100 years ago.
Right.
It was really the center of the world. There was a huge transnational empire.
Right.
The Habsburg Empire, which was half of Europe. So,
the history piece of Vienna was, when I travel, I love history. I love big country, like nature. So the history piece was pretty amazing to me, where you could go to, is it Parliament that has the huge square? That was amazing. We saw the crown jewels. I mean, there was just a bunch of things that were just like, wow.
Yeah, well, you think about it, you're seeing the crown that was put on Charlemagne's head in the year 800, and they have some relics that are supposedly a piece of the true cross. I mean, there's some hardcore stuff in just the treasury building. And then you have all the beautiful architecture and the concerts and the classical music concerts that go on. And you see the horse-drawn carriages
all over
running around. And I don't know if you had a chance to have speaking of food, this famous Sacher tort. That flourless chocolate cake.
So we absolutely did. We went to, is it the Sacher Hotel?
Next to the opera.
Yep. And so if you don't know what you're doing there, you might miss it. But, and I know this is something but I'll mention, you go into the hotel and go past kind of the first area where they check in, and it's amazing. There's some rooms in there that are just decorated to the nines.
Architectural wonder.
Unreal. Yes. Yeah. And then actually, prior to that, we went into the cafe to get the tort. Yep. And we ate upstairs, red velvet everywhere. It was really an experience. And it wasn't, I didn't know what to expect. I was really impressed, and it was good. It was really, really good. It was fun to have that.
Yeah, and Vienna is a place where a lot of the river cruise ships will spend the night. You know, they'll spend an overnight call there, so you'll have a lot of time to explore Vienna, and you can see why, because it's such a big city, and you kind of contrast it with the Rhine River. That's a lot more small villages, and stuff. Completely. And here you've got sort of a cultural capital of civilization and of the world that's part of your itinerary. So that's I think one of the big differences between the Danube and the Rhine is you've got that piece that's Vienna, and then Budapest as well. Yeah. Now, did you get a chance to go to? I heard a rumor that you went to a city called Salzburg along the way.
Oh yes, and
can you tell us about the Sound of Music?
So you will be proud to, and this is kind of an inside joke if you haven't been tuning into our podcast. Ted found out early in our podcast seasons that I had never seen the Sound of Music ever.
Can't believe it.
I know, unbelievable. And so now I have seen it. I have seen it. We actually, on our cruise ship, as you know, cruise ships offer movies and live TV. And so we, prior to going to Salzburg, I watched it. I had no idea it was that long. All good.
It is probably a long movie.
So watched it, and it was fun to have seen the movie, right? And then you go to some of these spots.
You actually see where they filmed.
It was fun.
And of course, you also see the magic of Hollywood because
for sure.
The Von Trapp Villa was 5 different locations.
Right.
Like it's kind of strange. But that's also a port of call on a river cruise.
Yeah.
And again, I think sometimes we'll talk to folks about going to Europe and they'll say, well, I don't really want to go on a river cruise. I want to see something, I want to see the countryside. And you have the opportunity to see places that are quite a ways from the river, like Salzburg. And the excursion is always really well done. Yeah. So again, you have the chance to see the highlights, the castle and the abbey where the wedding was and the Mozart's birthplace and those things. But you also have time just to enjoy the city, and the old town of Salzburg is just a beautiful little walkable
100%.
Couple square blocks of space, but it's just beautiful.
There was a highlight on the way to Salzburg. We stopped at, and you'll maybe know the city name, where the wedding was filmed.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah.
So this city, our town.
It's a village. It's really an alpine village.
It is. And when you say alpine, there's a lake that was just calm as could be, and then these mountains just, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what a picture. So very, very fun to see. For me, as a nature guy, I was like eating that up before we got to Salzburg. And then we went to the church, I believe, where the wedding scene was filmed, which was great. And then Salzburg itself, I kind of felt like I could have spent a little more time there. I wanted to go to the fortress that was up on the hill there. But yeah, fun city. It was really fun.
It is. And you know what it's named after?
I do not.
It's named after the salt mines. So
that was something else I wanted to see.
Salz is German for salt.
Oh,
and
sure.
So back in the days of the Roman Empire, actually even before the Holy Roman Empire, people didn't get paid in cash. They didn't get paid in Bitcoin. The soldiers actually got paid in salt.
Really?
And so the salt mines around Salzburg were quite a lucrative piece of property for the city of Salzburg to have, because the Roman Empire needed their salt to pay their soldiers.
Interesting.
And so it's always interesting how European history kind of twists and turns and connects back together. So yeah, but it is a beautiful city, and the alpine setting is just stunning. It's just stunning.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Mozart's birthplace as well, which was super fun. I like all genres of music, and Mozart definitely is up there, right? And one of the greatest ever. Oh, yeah. And it was super fun to see,
there's his birthplace.
There's his birthplace right there. It was like, wow, this is great.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of those things that, sometimes you get a little bit jaded about travel, and you're like, I've been here, I've seen too many churches or whatever. But around every corner and in Europe, it's like, oh my gosh, here's something amazing that changed the world, or here's something, this little tiny alpine town that nobody would have heard of if they hadn't filmed a big movie there. And you're like, this is the most breathtaking place I've been.
Yeah.
So it really, and it's so diverse. And that's, I think, part of why the Danube is a really neat river cruising destination is because of that diversity.
I would agree. And I would also echo what you said earlier. I think it's a great point, how the Danube had some larger cities on its tour, where you look at the Rhine and it was very small villages.
Which is very pretty, very scenic, but it's different. And, sometimes we'll talk to clients who are like, well, I'm only going to go on one river cruise. what should I do?
Right.
Going on one is better than going on none.
That's right.
But if you go on two, you really do get those different flavors of Europe. And believe it or not, there are actually river cruises that let you do both the Rhine and the Danube. Yep, and you cut across Germany, and they take about 2 weeks. Wow. Believe it or not, those are the first river cruises to sell out in a given year. Those 14-day river cruises. So, if you don't want to fly back and forth to Europe a couple times, you can definitely do that.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah.
And the other thing too is all these places are not very far apart.
Right.
And so the options to do a pre-cruise or a post-cruise hotel stay, stay on land and explore a little bit. I mean, Munich is nearby, Prague is nearby, Budapest, Vienna, great options to extend your cruise voyage as well.
Yeah, when we were in a little side story here, when we were in Vienna for the 4 days, one of the days, Shane was training. One of the days was kind of rainy and junky, and I'm like, I wonder what it's like in the Alps right now. And so I looked it up quick, and I'm like, so these cities in Europe, if you don't know, but they have great transportation.
Public transportation
is amazing.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so I walked from the Hilton waterfront over to their subway system. Took that to the rail main station. Yep. And took a train for about an hour and a half into the mountains, into the Alps. And then I jumped on a bus that took me up to where I was going to take my kind of gondola up to three-fourths of the way up the mountain.
Oh, wow.
And then I hiked the rest of the way up, and it was
gorgeous.
Amazing. Wow. It was beautiful. It was sunny. It was like, this is everything I wanted. It was great.
Can't beat that.
It was fun.
All right, let's stop beating about the bush.
Yeah.
Let's talk food.
Let's do it. Let's talk food.
So what was your favorite regional delicacy that you got to enjoy? Was it Wiener Schnitzel? Was it goulash? Or was it something else? Sachertorte?
Oh, you might be mad at me for this one.
Uh-oh.
In Vienna, there was a stand that was very, very popular. And it was, I don't remember the name of the stand, but it was just off of what's the big cathedral there? Is it just
St. Stephen's?
St. Stephen's, yeah. So it's just off the square there, not even a half a block. And I was looking around. This is one of the days I was touring on my own. And I was just looking around and thinking, where should I go for lunch? And there's this stand that has a 30-person line. And I'm like,
it's usually a sign.
That could be a good thing. And so I walked over there, and on, he's got a flat top, and he must have, 50 sausages of all flavors. And it's German style. It's Austria, right? So we've got German style food. And so it was amazing. So I asked for a spicy one, and he had a long bun that they put into a roaster. So they put kind of the nozzle up through the bun. So it heats it from the inside out, right?
Well, it's really good because otherwise that bread is too hard to eat.
It is, right. So they do that, and then wiener goes in. I guess they put mustard and ketchup in there first, and the sausage goes in, and you're all set.
Yeah. You know where the name Wiener came from?
Tell me.
Vienna.
Oh, I love it. Yes, of
Vienna
course.
In Germany is probably Wiener, but W-I-E-N is Vienna. So
I love that.
Or Frankfurter, I guess would be the other option, but that'd be the German version.
I love it.
But tasting kind of that street food is something, and the great thing about Europe is street food is totally safe.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about it. If you were in a third world country, you might be a little skeptical about eating or even New York, you might be skeptical about eating a sausage off the street. But the great thing in Europe is that you can try all those things, but then you can also visit the legendary Sacher Hotel and pop in and have Sachertorte. So how about now? Go ahead.
I got one or two more food things. I got to share these.
Food,
oh, good. So there was a cafe that we went to that had an apple
strudel, basically.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Was that in the town where they filmed The Sound of Music wedding? We'll have to pop that name in the comments.
It was not. This one again.
They
was
have a really good one there with white with ice cream. Yeah.
And it had a creamy sauce, and we had our coffees because that's what you do there.
Vienna is the coffee capital of the world.
Yes, and it's so good. Mm-hmm. And the coffee shop was in, sometimes you feel like you get in a coffee shop and you're like, let's go.
Yeah.
They were in no rush.
No, they're much more civilized about their enjoyment of coffee. Well, and that's one of the other interesting little historical tidbits about Vienna.
Yeah.
Vienna came very close to being conquered by the Ottoman Turks. Really? Back in, I think it was like the 17th century. And the Ottoman Turks loved coffee. Okay. And so as they made their way into Europe, they brought coffee with them. Oh my Well, they were defeated, and when they left, the Viennese kept the coffee. Nice. And so coffee society in Vienna is a thing.
Okay.
Long before Starbucks, there was the Vienna Coffee House. And so they really introduced coffee to kind of the Western world. It came from the East through Turkey or through the Ottoman Empire into Vienna. So that's why you probably had that excellent cup of coffee.
So funny.
Yeah.
All right. I need to phone a friend. What is is it veal that they pound out and they,
deep fry?
Yeah. What is that called?
It's called Wiener Schnitzel.
Wiener Schnitzel. Yeah. So I had,
and it's like the size of a,
oh my gosh,
Thanksgiving turkey serving platter. I mean, they don't mess around with their Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah, I had one. Literally, it was that big. It was amazing. It was, if you can see this on camera, it was huge, and it was at one of the. So I looked. I forget what I used to look. Maybe it was ChatGPT. I asked like, what are the great, traditional food places in town? So I had the Wiener Schnitzel. Carla had something she absolutely loved, and she raved about. I think goulash, maybe.
Go to bed.
And then Shannon, my wife, who is a bit of a picky eater, also found something that she loved. It was a chicken with, oh my gosh, it was amazing. It was one of those, again, a restaurant just kind of down a couple streets, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, here we are. And it was just awesome.
Yeah. So how about on the ship?
On the ship.
On the ships, because you were on a couple.
Ships, yeah. That's a great one. So they had, was this Viking? I think it was Viking.
Because you were actually on two cruises. You were on a Viking cruise,
that's right,
and an Avalon Waterways cruise. So you got to taste a bit of the industry there.
Yeah, it was fun to be on two different ones. So Viking one night had on some. They had the accordion and
kind of the little evening entertainment.
Yes,
light dancing
right for dinner. Yeah, and then they had a big German meal for us.
Yes, the big Oktoberfest meal. Even though it was April.
That's right. So that one was fun. I'll tell you, both Viking and Avalon had amazing food, and there were some nights. One night we had lobster was part of the what lobster, and then every meal is like 4 or 5 courses. I mean, you are never feeling
You're never going to be hungry.
And if one of the options isn't quite right, they'll help you out. They'll help you find something that
they've
works.
Always got
It's
a steak
amazing.
or a chicken or a salmon fillet or something kind of American. And,
yes.
I think the number one reason why river cruising is great is because you don't have to pack and unpack very much. There are some guided tours now that I think they're starting to get the message, and you're seeing longer stays in specific cities.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that the food on board, the cruise lines go to a lot of effort to source their ingredients locally and regionally, and create menus that are both very authentic and very European. But also, if you are a little bit more of a picky eater or, don't want to try something new tonight, you can have something that you're familiar with and you can enjoy that. And sometimes if you're trying to go out to dinner at a restaurant in a city, it's hard to find that combination.
That's a great point.
Things.
That is a great point. Yeah. They were very, I went so far as I was asking, our server, I said, I'm trying to decide between these two entrees, right? And he goes,
why not both?
Why don't you have both? And we'll just put not a full serving, but we'll just on one plate. And I'm like, you can do that?
Oh, yeah. It is, I think, a little bit of a surprise for folks who haven't cruised before, haven't done a river cruise. The answer is almost always yes.
Yeah, I had no
idea. To anything you want. And then the other thing that I just love is that they all have the coffee machines.
Yes.
So you can get a nice cappuccino sort of any time of the day to kind of as a pick-me-up. And, they serve beer and wine with lunch and dinner. And, it's usually very regional-focused wine. Yeah. So you could go ashore and presumably buy the same bottle of wine. So, they do a really nice job, I think, of bringing the local experience on board the ship as it floats from place to place.
100%. Yeah, they even got me to explore the space of the wines. I've been a little hesitant because I just haven't. I don't know, my palate's just not ready for it yet or what. But I was like, they had a dinner where they had tastings throughout the dinner, and they would bring different wines for what we were tasting during the dinner. It was amazing.
Yeah, based on the menu.
Yes, I felt like I was at some 5-star tasting.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is great.
And you get to learn something.
Yes,
you're learning by tasting, by doing, by seeing. I mean, if college had been like this, I think we all would have learned probably a lot more. But it really is, it's enjoyable and it's fun. But you also come back a little bit smarter, maybe than when you left. And I think that's one of the neat things about travel. hey, it's great to go to the beach and relax, and that's a very valid vacation. But when you're doing a river cruise in Europe, you are getting that entire, for feast for the senses, but also for the mind, and also for the body. So you probably put some good mileage on your legs as you walked around.
Oh my gosh! So I have a Apple Watch, and I've got my phone on me, and so I'm always tracking steps. One day I put in 15,000.
Oh,
this was me on my own exploring Vienna, so I was just all over. But I was averaging about 12,000 a day, which is fine.
Yeah,
that was great.
And you do it in bits and pieces. You're not doing it all at once.
And it's not uphill. It was for the most part. You're walking around the city, or you're whatever, touring a special place.
And folks who aren't as mobile, there are a lot of options that are closer to the pier where they can explore without having to put those 15,000 steps on. Yeah. And the river cruise lines also have sort of more active activities as well, biking tours, hiking tours, things like that. So kind of whatever you're interested in, you can, and the nice thing is you can mix and match.
That's right.
So one day you can go on a biking tour, the next day you can go to a museum.
That's right. Yeah, we were in, I forget the city, but it was one of those days where we kind of had the afternoon off. It was a gorgeous day. It was 60 and sunny. And Shannon and I asked
in April.
In April, right. And we asked if we could borrow a bike from the ship. And they said, sure. Do you want an electric bike or a regular bike? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe electric bike, because we've got some bridges we're going to go over and just keep it simple, right? And so we literally, they're like, okay, sounds great. We'll get those down and get those ready for you. And so literally 10, 15 minutes later, we get a quick call. Hey, your bikes are ready. We walk off the ship. Here's 2 bikes and a young, one of the guys from the ship, and says,
your helmets.
Yep, here's your helmets. Here's how you lock the bikes, and here's how you run them, and away you go. And so we spent
be back by 7.
Yeah, we spent 2 hours biking around the city. Yeah. It was, and frankly, like you said, you're right there in the city. You're usually there's a river walk usually right by your ship, and there was. And so we biked down the river walk, across onto an island, biked all the way down, across another bridge, and back down. Again, it was like 2 hours. We did stop for a beer.
Well, because you got to keep hydrated, right? If you're exercising, you want to keep hydrated.
That is what Ken does.
You got to try the local beer too, just to make sure it's up to speed.
I'm trying to get the full experience, so I'm like, I got to stop for a cold one. So, and that's another beautiful thing about Europe is they've got little spots like in the most like
everywhere.
We'd never have it in America where you're like, oh, there's a little beer stand here that offers awesome pretzels and like a little, sandwich.
On the edge of a tiny little city park that has, like 2 sawhorses and
That's it, Ted.
It's amazing.
It's crazy. Yeah. And it was, there's something about it where you almost feel like you're getting away with something. It was just so fun.
Yeah, it is. And I think, I think that's a good encapsulation of what a Danube River cruise is. We talked about some of the big cities, Vienna, Budapest, Salzburg that you can explore, but so much else to do and so many choices. Really, it's a vacation that even though, you're traveling with another group of people, it's a vacation that you can very much customize to make it what you want to.
Yeah.
And what you might enjoy doing might be something different than I do. And we're sharing the space on the ship and we're traveling together, and we might do some excursions together, but we might also do some totally different excursions. And I just think that's really what makes that river cruise such an amazing way to see what's really an amazing part of the world, which is kind of Central Europe and Austria, Hungary, Czech Republic, Germany, the big cities there. And you can actually go on river cruises that even go further down into Southern Europe. You can actually go almost to the Black Sea. So the Danube goes for quite a long ways.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, another thing that I'll call out that was kind of surprising to me prior to river cruising was how intimate the ships feel. It's not 1,000 people like you think of cruise ship. You often think of
big,
the legendary, whatever, the biggest thing you've ever seen on the ocean.
Yep.
It's not that at all. It's these very intimate 150-ish people on most,
150 to 200 roughly. Yeah, that's the pretty standard capacity. And you were traveling with other travel advisors.
Yeah.
The people you meet on river cruises are interesting people. I would find they're well traveled. They've started to find this way of traveling, and they really, really enjoy it. So
yeah, we've met some couples that have so much time on cruise ships, it's almost like mind blowing.
They're like me.
Yeah. Like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And they're not like you. They don't own a travel business.
No,
they are just explorers, and they love, this is how they travel.
Well, and it is, I think that's something that, when we talk about the big mega floating resorts, and there's some great, there's some great reasons why that could be the right trip for you. But in Europe, the center of Europe, that's not going to make any sense. But it's such a convenient way to travel. And you get to try a lot of new destinations. Yeah. And the neat thing is you may find someplace and say, wow, I'd really like to go back to Vienna, and maybe I'm going to spend a little more time there. But you can also say, you know what, I've been there. I saw it. That's right. Don't need to go back.
That's right.
And so I think it is really a fantastic way to travel, whether you're going to Europe for the only time you think you're ever going to go there, or it's one of many, many trips. Yeah, it's
amazing. I am a huge fan. You have got me hooked on river cruising, my friend.
Well, my work here is done.
I am I'm not doing the old school way anymore of getting out on a coach bus. I'm done with that.
Yeah, and the coach buses, actually, there are some great ways. There's some great opportunities there, and we'll talk about that sometime in the future too. But this is TED Talks Cruises, so we'll focus on cruises. But I think we're kind of just about out of time.
We went long, I think, which is all
that's
good.
Okay. That's okay. We'll wrap up. Yeah. And just a reminder, you can visit tedblanktravel.com to learn more about what we do here at Ted Blank Travel. And I think a couple of the reasons why folks might want to consider booking their next river cruise with us, whether it's their first or their 50th. We've been recognized as one of the top 1% of luxury travel agencies in the United States.
Wow, Ted, that's awesome.
By the Travel Leaders Network. So we're a leader in this space.
That's great.
Our staff is very well traveled. They're expert in the destinations. They're expert in the cruises. And they've got your back in case something goes wrong. And oftentimes we've got some great added value that we can offer to your river cruise to make sure that we're getting the most out of the dollars you invest in this vacation. So we'd love to help you out at Ted Blank Travel. You can visit our website at tedblanktravel.com and encourage you to like and subscribe to this podcast. And stay tuned for our next episode of TED Talks Cruises, the ultimate destination guide. And we're going to take you to another amazing destination next week.
Love it.
All right. I'm Ted Blank. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Ken Conan. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.